faith, family, and everything else that matters to you from a godly point of view. Welcome to the Clear Branch Methodist Podcast.
Hey, welcome in. It is the Clear Branch Methodist Podcast. My name is Mark. I'm one of the pastors here at Clear Branch Methodist Church, and I am here with our lead pastor, Jeremy Allville. How you doing, sir?
Doing good, buddy. How about you?
Do you feel smarter now?
I don't know about all that.
A couple of weeks ago, Jeremy got his master's, and
Yeah,
now he's
that's
just
right.
walking around using big words around the office.
Oh, that's no different.
Indubitably.
Indubitably. That's right. That's right. Big words are important.
Yeah. But congratulations.
Yeah,
there.
thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's good. I'm glad to be done with that portion, and kind of praying through the process of discernment about what's next, and already have some ideas about that. But we'll see.
One more year for me. Just
Yeah,
one
we'll
more
see.
year. I remember when everybody on this hall was in school. Now it's just little old me.
Yeah, that's right. Well, then you'll finish, and then I'll probably be back. So
There you go.
That's
There you go.
the trade-off, I guess.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we'll see. I'm not sure yet. Praying about it and looking at options and thinking about things, and certainly want to be don't want to not do the things that God calls me to.
Yeah.
But at the same time, want to be assured of those things that I'm doing are not just for me. And so, I enjoy school. I enjoy learning.
Yeah.
I enjoy teaching. So most of the time, my default will always be, let's do more. So
There you go.
Yeah, for sure.
There you go. So we've started a new sermon series.
Yeah, for sure.
Here at Clear Branch, and it's one that I've been excited about. It's called Family Matters.
Yeah, I think you pitched this one like 2 years ago, the first time or something. right?
I'm notorious when we have our sermon series planning retreats that we do every year. I'm notorious where if I feel like one is a good one, I don't mind bringing it back the next year if it doesn't get chosen for that year.
Yeah.
We did one a few years ago called Monsters Under the Bed. I think that was the third time I pitched that one.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. This one needs to be done.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and a lot of it comes down to timing. I mean, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, actually one of the professors at Asbury, Fred Long, and I was telling him, that we're really, really intentional about this process of choosing and ordering, right? Structuring and preparing and all those things that go into our sermons. And so I hope that's evident when you show up on a Sunday morning or you watch it on, whatever selected, format you watch it in. But, the whole idea there is that, we're kind of building out in advance. We had a staff planning day on May 5th, and that planned us all the way through November of 26, right? And we're planned now through Advent of this year, from the year before that. And so
there are pastors out there listening to this going, what?
Yeah, no kidding. Well, and I'll actually be doing some teaching about this very subject in January of 26, doing some work with pastor development here in North Alabama and helping folks to have a better understanding of the benefit of distance planning, thinking about these things, and using the resources of their staff or even other pastor groups to get together and to plan together. So, I've done some of that already and looking forward to doing more. So, super good stuff. Yeah.
So we're in this sermon series, Family Matters.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this week started off with a focus on husbands and wives.
Yeah.
And it's one of those topics that if you don't shape it right, it can really kind of turn some people off before they have a chance to keep going and learn.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, most of the time, well, let's just say that there are parts of Scripture that we read and we think, say what? Or to quote Gary Coleman, what you talking about, Willis? Right? I mean, we have this.
What you talking about, Paul?
That's right. Exactly. There's definitely a moment where in some of these things, and Paul's kind of notorious for dropping these things out there and just kind of watching the carnage unfold. I can't help but think that Paul would have really enjoyed our response to these things, right? Because
sure.
If you think our response is visceral, you got to consider the nature of the response of first century, former Greek, which means Gentile, non-Jewish based people who became Christian. And so, they had a very different format of living, a different type of order to their lives. And so Paul uses these things that are very stereotypical, like in this instance. I mean, he's talking about kind of housing codes of the way that relationships occur within the house. And remember that, first century, areas like Ephesus or Asia Minor, those places had very, very patriarchal ways of living, right? Where it was very male centric. In many of those places, women did not have much in the way of rights. They didn't have any ability to own or to work for their own, and it was kind of a difficult place. And so Paul taps into that, and he does it in a way that really steps on toes. Like we read this and we think, oh man, he's called. No, it's not about us. It really isn't. I mean, now we can read it, right? We can strive to understand it. You know, we get through that process of assimilating what's being taught and appreciating what it's all about, and then applying it properly to our lives. But Paul's not pushing this idea of subservience of women. That's not the idea at all. I think he does recognize the need for there to be proper relationships of mutual respect and love, right? And I think he's promoting those things, but he's doing it in the context of a first century world where, you know, women didn't have that opportunity. And he says, listen, you know, you got to love your husband. You got to, you know, respect your wife. You got to do these things. And at once he's calling all of us into that. And it's really less about husbands and wives than it is about the proper relationship between us and Christ. And so it's a lot of layers, and we're going to unwrap that some in the next couple of weeks. So.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you have to do that exegetical study to understand, to uncover the real meaning behind it.
Yeah.
You can bumper sticker phrase it all day long and
fall short.
Completely misinterpret what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, we get the sense of what this is all about, right? Like Paul uses this Greek word agapao, which is a cognate of agape. Thank you. And so we know that we've talked about agape here before, but right, this idea of
that pure selfless love,
self-giving love. It's characteristic of the way that Christ loves the church, that Christ loves each of us. And so what he's really trying to do here is to delineate really the difference between the very human love, if you will, that's oftentimes not unconditional, that's oftentimes not self-giving, especially in the first century. And in doing that, he's calling husbands to be about more than the romantic or the physical or the sexual or any of those things. He's ultimately challenging them to love his wife as though she has value and worth beyond what the world says she has at that point in time. Yeah. And so it's really an indictment of the tendency in first century world to see women of less value than men. And so
it's challenging those societal norms of women almost being property or livestock.
That's right.
Yeah, they're an asset.
Right.
And that is owned.
Yeah. Well, and he goes even beyond that, right? He's not only saying that you have value and worth, but he also says that the way that's clearly indicated in 5:28 for Ephesians chapter 5 verse 28. He talks about this idea of there being so much more to it than just a one-dimensional thing, right? Like 5:28 says, in the same way, husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. Right. And so there's this self-referential thing going on here, right? Like if you really care about yourself, you're going to care about your wife.
Yeah.
Man, that was radical for the first century where that wasn't, the norm at all. And so anyway, I love it. I think it's awesome. I think it's always good for us to kind of reassess and to dig into and to consider what these things are all about and to understand that we're intended to continue to do that in a world where I talk to so many people who tell me stories about friends of theirs who wind up in relationships where the marriage is more like roommates than it is like this intentional, developed, valuable way of being loved and offering love to someone else. And it looks nothing like the love of Christ in the church.
No, it's hospitality, basically.
It's
habit.
Yeah. We got to get beyond habit and we got to get to a place where we're willing to put ourselves out on the line, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
For the sake not only of ourselves, but because we love ourselves and we love our spouses for each other. And so it's beautiful. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll generate some response. I mean, there's going to be some folks who are going to have a hard time getting beyond these ideas, no matter how far into the series you get, because this is tough, but parents and children, coming up is going to be tough, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got parents and children. What are some of the other relationships we're looking at in this series?
Well, in this one, we're only doing 3, and there's a lot that we could do. And the third one's still under development, but the idea of like friends, like how we treat our friends, how we treat our children, how we treat our spouses is kind of that central place.
Yeah.
Paul in that same section, and I may wind up trying to work some of this into our third message here, and I've already kind of started that. Paul moves from the husband and the wife to the children to the relationship of like well, Paul talks about it in the way of like slave and master, but for us, it could be in the same way of thinking about like a business owner and their employees, right? Because we don't think about, we're not in that world anymore. But you don't want to destabilize or decentralize what it was Paul was trying to say. The whole point is that he wants all of these relationships, especially within the Christian context, to let other people see what God's love looks like for us because of the way that we treat each other.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Family matters because our family should ultimately be pointing other people to what it looks like to be loved by God and to love God in response. That's huge.
And when you look at this sermon series, contrast it with the one right before it, the Got Fruit series.
Yeah.
We talked about the characteristics of the character of God.
Yeah.
This builds so much. This is like, here's the base level, and then we come into this series, we're talking about how to, basically implementation.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it's starting to apply these things functionally and factually to our lives. And I think it's good sometimes. You've seen this, and I have too, where you kind of got to shock the listening public in order to get them to actually hear the message. And so I think Paul was doing that, but I think it's also important for us to be willing to do the same thing for the sake of helping people to see maybe their own shortfalls and struggles and misconceptions and self-centeredness, right? Things like that, which are pretty common. I mean, in this day and age, there's so many folks are much more focused on their own needs than the needs of the ones that they're intended to love. And so, I think it's relevant. It hits home. I'm hopeful that our listeners here and those folks who are here with us on Sunday mornings, get the sense of that too. So,
good stuff.
Yeah, man.
So we've and last week Michael and I talked about the sentiment of, it's summertime. You guys get to rest now.
Oh, that's not fair. No, I wish. I think we convince ourselves of that because it's so busy in other parts of the year.
Yeah.
Like you come out of Lent and you think, man, it's summer, and then it just, you've got a couple of weeks maybe where it's a little bit slower. And of course, we've just come out of graduations. I think there's some of those still going on, but most of the high schools around us have graduated. And so that's a big deal. You got families in flux in that regard as students are finishing up and going into the workforce or going off to college. And then, you have that kind of we got to grab these last couple of opportunities to go away with each other and do a fun trip with the family. And then, you try to get all that done and then wham, it's right back to, school starting again. And so, it's nonstop.
It's that constant lie that we tell ourselves as adults that if I just get through this week, things will calm down.
That's right.
And then it goes on every week.
Yeah. Well, I think there's really a message in that, Mark. It's the need for us to find time to rest. And and so that's something that, is necessary and maybe finding its way into some discussion that we'll be having at some point in the future. But, for the summer for us, I mean, it's kind of a typical thing. We have VBS, we've got annual conference, we've got, oh, gracious. We've got all sorts of camp opportunities for children and middle schoolers and high schoolers. We've got, the first week of June, we really get kicked off for the summertime stuff.
Yeah.
There's, Michael and the RISE program for our high school students. And so, if you are looking for a place for your family to plug in, you want your child to go and to have a meaningful opportunity, no matter what age they are, we have got those opportunities for you. And it's going to be a great summer in that regard for sure. So.
And one thing we really do just come down on hard here at Clear Branch is that sense of community.
Yeah.
And through a lot of that, we're seeing a lot of our summer programming reflect that. Yeah. For example, VBS. Yeah. We're actually teaming up with a few other churches in the community.
That's right.
And it is labeled a community VBS.
Yeah. In fact, we're open to having whoever wants to be here. If there's other churches that are interested, reach out to us and let us know. But we've already paired up with Springville Methodist and also with Trustful First Methodist, and they come here on site with us, and we do the VBS here, and it's amazing. And so we share some responsibility in planning and preparation, and then we've got volunteers and opportunities for kids of all ages to be involved, and that's huge. Wednesday nights this summer, we've historically taken Wednesday nights off for the dinners.
Big deal.
This is a big deal. It's the first thing for us, and I love that we're able to be at a point where we can do this. If you have not been here for a Wednesday night in a long time, please come and eat dinner with us. It will set your taste buds on fire. The dinners here are the best I think that they've ever been. I think most folks would agree with that. And not only the best they've ever been, but it offers you an opportunity to not have to cook on your own. So that's kind of wonderful. On Wednesday nights during the summer, instead of taking a break from Wednesdays and taking a break from small groups, we're going to carry our dinners right on through. And though our small groups have the opportunity to meet or not, we're going to be doing a thing that's all about these community fellowship dinners. And so if you're in the area and you just want to come grab a dinner and and hang out and sit down, or maybe you just want to grab a dinner to go, that's an option for you as well. Just come in on a Wednesday. We're going to be starting those dinners at 6, which is a little later than normal. Normally we do 5:15.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing 6 o'clock so that folks can have a little bit more break between their finishing up work and getting to the church. And then we're going to sit around tables and talk and just experience life together. We'll have games to play. We'll have activities some nights. There'll be things for your children and your students to do. It's going to be great. But you guys come out and hang out with us. Find a table, bring your friends, and enjoy a great dinner. And not only that, enjoy some awesome time together as we just engage in community and live out what it is that we're preaching week in and week out here. So,
Do we know what date that swap over happens?
yeah, so that will be the third week of this month. Is the last of the kind of standard. So by the time we get to June,
Yes.
that kind of first week of June, be expecting those things to look different, right?
Okay.
So that's the weekend that we have Rise starting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that for sure, everything will be set and will be moved into that direction. In fact, I'm not looking at my calendar, which is probably not the best thing to do as I talk about this. So we're in the third week of May, which is the 21st. This would be our typical time for that to stop. The 28th looks like that will be the first day that we do the later dinners. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's right.
That
Yeah.
works great.
And we'll post if that's not right, but I think it is.
Sure. Just
So,
keep an eye on our
keep an eye
social
on social
media,
media,
your
yeah.
e-newsletter and all that. We'll have all those dates out there for you. We actually have been asked by our conference to host annual conference for the North Alabama Conference of the Global Methodist Church.
Yeah, this is the third time for us, right? It's
Yeah.
really awesome, and it's a blessing and a joy, and they're going to be here in June. We're going to have a great time. We're going to have a lot of pastors here. We'll be doing ordinations over at Trustful First, but everything else functionally will be happening here, and that works out great. We're going to have awesome worship. We're going to have times of teaching. We'll have our bishop who is here, Carolyn Moore. We'll have Tim Tennant, who is the head of the Wesley program at Beeson over at Sanford. It's going to be great, and I think if you're part of the GMC and you don't have plans yet, if you have not signed up yet for
Do it today.
the annual conference, you need to do that for sure.
Emails have already gone out.
Yeah, they have. Yeah,
Check
if you
your
haven't signed up, you're late.
Yeah, check your junk folder if you haven't seen it. But yeah,
That's right.
emails have gone out.
Yeah.
For all the registration. And the thing is that the meals are free this year.
Yeah, they are.
Feeding us for free.
Feeding us for free. Yeah, they got a couple of meal options there for each one of those meals. So you
Yeah.
can have a gluten-free option. You can have a salad-based option. You can have a grilled option. You can have, it's all sorts of stuff.
So there's
And
no payment. So really it's just sign up to tell us what you want for your free meal.
That's right. Tell us what you want, and we'll help make that happen. And that's going to be a lot of fun. It's if you have not been here and you're in the Global Methodist Church for annual conference, and you really need to make that happen. It is truly. If you had been to historic annual conferences that were oftentimes a little bit more anxiety-ridden than they should be, you're going to find this to be a tremendous breath of fresh air as we experience great worship, as we experience great teaching, as we experience this undeniable lack of conflict and unity. To pull back into Paul there for
Sure.
Ephesians, pushing this concept of unity on and on and on. And that's what we are intended to experience in the body of Christ. And I'm so grateful that we experience that during our annual conference.
The last 2 years, and I expect the same to carry over to this year, it's felt less like a business meeting and more like a family reunion.
Yes, that's a great way to say it. I think it's a family reunion with better music.
That is fair. Depends on the family.
I don't know. My family's pretty musical. We all had a pretty good time. It was like a bluegrass breakdown at our family reunions. But no, this will be great. It really will be.
And once again, on the conference level, we've got different camps out there happening, right? We've got over at Covert Camp Samatonga, we've got some camps that I'm involved with, that Melanie is involved with.
Michael will be there as well.
Michael will be there as well. We've got up the northern parts of our conference. There's another camp opportunity there. So all kinds of summer camps. If you want to get your kids involved in something, there are lots of opportunities there.
Yeah.
Just a busy time.
Well, and in the midst of that busyness, I love that we're taking time to be so focused upon community.
Well, yeah.
Right? That we are able to walk through life together, that we're able to build each other up, that we're able to share our stories, that we're able to just be in relationship. And man, I'm pumped about the summer. I'm pumped about the fall. I can't wait for us to get to the August sermon series. There's so many things going on, but y'all, it is good. So
Yeah. If you want to we've referenced a few things that have happened in the past. We mentioned the sermon this past Sunday. There's you can grab that video on our YouTube channel. We've mentioned Carolyn Moore was mentioned.
Yeah.
She's going to be at conference this coming
June.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to think month wise. Yeah, it's in June.
Yeah.
If you want to know more about her, she was actually a previous guest on our podcast. So if you go back a few episodes, you'll find that one.
Yeah.
And you can just check all of our outlets for all this.
In like
stuff.
less than 2 weeks, she'll be here. Right, like that's kind of where we are. And
Oh my gosh,
it's super quick.
Where did that come from?
Yeah, for sure.
I gotta get my suit pressed. I gotta get Melanie.
Got to get your gown out of mothballs.
I gotta get Melanie to help me get all the wrinkles out of my gown.
Well, and as that's for sure.
My robe,
I jokingly call it a gown. It is a robe, and it's fun to pick on Mark. But hey, Mark mentioned my graduation. A call out to Mark. Mark went through board of ministry and has been confirmed that he will be ordained as a deacon at conference, which is awesome. It's a lot of work. If you guys aren't familiar with the church world, in the Methodist world, education is extremely important.
It's paramount.
And it is. And it ultimately is what prepares you and meets the qualifications as you go through that process, whether you're doing it as course of study or you're doing it as a seminary student. You take these courses to be prepared for the work that you're going to do in ministry. And so Mark has finished those first chunk of classes. We've really finished almost all the other ones too.
I've got like 3 classes left total. But
he's finished that first chunk that qualifies him as a deacon, and then he'll be working in the next year to finish up the others with the hope and the expectation that he'll be qualified as an elder. And so awesome things happening. We're both excited about it. Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be fun times. So coming up in the next few weeks, we'll continue to analyze and break apart this family matters concept. And we'll talk about, parenting and just being a part of friendships and how friends can become family.
Yeah.
And that's just a part of it. I heard a musician named Christian Bush talk about this.
Yeah.
He was setting up a song on a live album, but he was talking about how a lot of times people become our family and we don't realize it until it's already made. It's like because you graduate high school, graduate college, and move off.
Yeah.
Many cases, and the people that become your family are the guy that works at your store.
Yeah.
The guys that is beside you on the bus every day.
The folks that are in ministry with you.
Exactly.
At your church.
That becomes your family.
Yeah.
So it's important that we talk about those relationships, and it's going to be an interesting next few weeks as we kind of analyze how Christ works through those interactions.
Well, and I think every one of us winds up into these places on occasion where we recognize the relative difficulty, the dysfunction, the lack that may be present sometimes in familiar relationships. Mm-hmm. And so it's wonderful when people choose us, not because they have to, but because they love us.
Yeah.
And that's reciprocated through the example of Christ. As we see Christ do that for us, we do that for Christ. They do that for us, we do that for them. And it builds this beautiful community that really is what the church is supposed to look like. And so, yeah, absolutely. We're thankful for those who are part of this ministry, thankful for those who are part of this church, our congregation that we get to minister to. We are grateful to everybody that we get to have involvement with and that we see as a blessing. So if you've been coming and hanging out with us on Wednesday nights, if you're coming and hanging out with us on Sunday mornings, we want that to keep up. If you've never been here before, you are welcome. We'd love to have you, and we'd love to welcome you to this community and help you find your people. So let us know if you need that. So.
Tell a friend and family about the podcast. Share it on all of your socials and all that. That would help us out with the spread of this thing. Yeah. In the meantime, we will see you next time on the Clear Branch Methodist Podcast.